It's important for everybody to know that the documentation that you provide for a student and a client is confidential. So whatever a student asks for from you to support their need or their request for disability services is something that disability services cannot share out. So here are some things to think about. Um, I have worked with some students that have provided me documentation from their therapist that they were not allowed to see. Now, this is something where I think, as a disability services provider, it's probably really important for that student to be able to read that and understand how their disability, how their diagnosis is impacting their learning abilities. I think that's just across the board so important for advocacy, so important for understanding self. So, whenever I would receive direct information from a therapist, counselor, I would always be kind of curious with the student, like, do you know what's written in here? And more of the time they wouldn't know. And some of the students weren't even curious, which made me think. That makes me think, okay, do you know yourself? Do you know how this diagnosis that you're working on with a therapist weekly or biweekly or, monthly is impacting your request and also impacting how your success could be on this college campus? I always encourage my students to read their evaluations, to keep their evaluations, to be able to have an open conversation about their diagnosis and what that looks like. So this only helps them be better prepared for the college classroom. So with that being said, I think it is important to really have a conversation with somebody who requests this document from you. And going to a college to seek accommodations is to say, like, well, what do you think you struggle with as a student in the classroom? Um, the other thing that I've seen a lot of is that a lot of the students that I worked with, especially the ones with psychiatric diagnoses, did not realize that they were eligible for services. I think it's something about the word disability that makes people kind of like, well, I don't have a disability. Like, I could still work. I could still go to school. I still could have a family. I could still function and drive. Like, people still have this mindset and stigma that disability means that you can't. So I think again, this is really important in understanding how to promote somebody to access these services early is the best thing that they can do. And so a lot of students with anxiety especially would be like, I had no idea that I would be eligible for this. Maybe they heard a presentation or they heard somebody else getting accommodations and that's what led them through the door. But I think you as a counselor, it's going to be so and so, so important that you're able to lead them to this path as soon as you can. Accommodation requests can happen at any time, which I do talk about in this training, but the sooner the better. And the student has the choice on whether they want to use the accommodations or not.